Hi friends, let's make this a no-fail fall. That's right, fall is the most important time to ensure that you're going to do everything in your power to overwinter your hives successfully this year. And so today I'm going to give you my top 7 tips for fall management of your beehive. Stay tuned, the last one may be the most important of them all and the most underutilized. If you are new to my channel, welcome. We talk all things beekeeping here for people that are small-scale beekeepers from 1 to 50 hives. I'm glad that you're here. Every Thursday I post a new video. And so if you have not yet joined our community, please do so by hitting the subscribe button below. Love to have you along for the ride. Let's jump right in. No sense wasting time. It's fall, and it's one of the most important, crucial times for the success of your beehive as we approach winter. Here's what happens with us. We get excited in the spring. Our nests are exploding, honey is coming in, our nectar is coming in technically, and the bees are making it into honey, you're splitting, you're making queens. It gets really exciting. Summer heat hits, it becomes a little bit harder to manage your hives, but as the summer wears on, some of the problems are more evident that we're going to have in our hives. So what I want to do today is address the top 7 tips that I have for fall management for this year in your beehive. Let's jump right in. Tip number 1. Tip number 1 is simply this: know why your queen is not laying. I teach beginner beekeeping classes. As a matter of fact, I have an online beekeeping course. You can see the link right here. If you have not taken a beekeeping course, you might want to consider it. I also mentor new beekeepers through a mentoring program that I have called Raise Beekeeping Club. And one of the things that I consistently see in my younger beekeepers that are first, second, third year beekeepers is that their queen stops laying and they don't know why. Now, of course, the most obvious reason is that the hive has suddenly become queenless. She has left the hive, she has died, she's been killed for whatever reason. Maybe they tried to supersede her and the supersedure failed, and so now there's no queen in the hive. So obviously we want to make sure we know we have a queen, because if we don't have a queen, obviously she can't be laying any eggs for the winter and your hive is eventually going to die. But there are some other reasons why your hive may not be laying as well. One of them I just mentioned was a failed supersedure, and that doesn't mean that there's not a queen inside of the hive. Perhaps she never was mated or never was mated properly, and maybe there were no drones in the area because the supersedure took I can't seem to get this right. The supersedure took place too late in the fall. Sorry about that. And so the queen was never mated properly, and so she may not be laying for that reason. Another reason why queens may not be laying inside of your hive is that there's no nutrition coming in. The queen will slow down her laying for sure as summer goes on and we enter into the fall. Some queens will even almost come to a complete halt. But if we kind of trick the queen a little bit into laying by keeping some incoming resources into the hive, particularly sugar water, which is kind of our nectar substitute, then that queen will keep laying. But if there's no nutrition coming into the hive, then she's going to stop laying, or the worker bees are going to come behind her and they're going to cannibalize or eat the eggs that she has laid. Fall is such a crucial time to build up your nest in the hive so that they have a good strong cluster to overwinter with. And so if we don't have any bees that are being born throughout the fall, then our cluster size is going to be relatively small over the winter, which ultimately can lead to their demise. So it's very important that when we have a queen, and that number 2, we make sure that we know why she's not laying. And if there's a reason why she's not laying that we can fix, that we go ahead and address that. So when we look inside of our hives in the fall, we still want to see eggs. We want to see that queen laying these bees that are going to help overwinter the hive. These bees have a slightly different genetic makeup than the spring and summer bees. They have more fat cells on their body. They're a little bit bigger and they're more designed to help overwinter the hive. We want to see eggs of all stages. You might know this, but day 1, that egg probably is going to be standing up. Day 2, it falls over, and then day number 3, that egg hatches out. We want to be able to see that process going on even through the fall. Now granted, it's going to be slower. Might be harder to find in the fall than it is going to be in the spring, where you just have sheets of brood and sheets of eggs. but you should still see your queen laying. And so my first tip is, if she's not laying, let's go ahead and stimulate that hive with some sugar water in order to get her laying and see if that fixes the problem. Tip number 2. Well, that would be tip number 4. Let's just go with one hand. Tip number 2. Tip number 2 is get feeding right. Get feeding right. One of two things happens with beekeepers, in my experience, especially when they're first getting started, when it comes to feeding your hive. There are some beekeepers that seem to miss the fact that we don't have to feed our bees all year round. They think it's more like a goldfish or like a kitty cat, and that hive needs to constantly be fed throughout the year. And so as a result, they feed sugar water in their hive all summer long, all fall long, all year round. They're just constantly making sugar water and feeding it. And what's happening inside of the hive is it is filling up with sugar water honey. The bees are storing that, making it into a kind of honey-like substance. Doesn't have any nutritional value, of course, like real honey will, but it's kind of hard to detect the difference when you're just looking inside the hive. And your hive literally can become honey-bound in the fall, as strange as that might seem. Time of year that for most beekeepers, there's not a lot of resources coming in, but your hive can become honey-bound with sugar water honey. So my first thing that I see a lot of beekeepers do when it comes to getting feeding right is they tend to overfeed their hive and fill it up with sugar water. And that's really not necessary, especially if you're a first-year beekeeper and you didn't take any honey off your first year and it has some natural honey in it, and then you're filling it up with sugar water. You literally can have no place for that queen to be laying, which can actually really hurt and hinder your hive. Let them eat some of that down throughout the fall if you have been feeding or overfeeding your hive. But the other extreme is that some beekeepers are like, the bees will have to figure it out themselves. I'm not going to feed them at all. I'm tired, I'm sick of going out there, it's hot out, etc. And so they don't feed their hives at all. And so the hive can actually really be struggling when it comes to nutrition. And I'm primarily talking about sugar water here because that's what they're going to want to store up for the winter, is that honey or honey substitute. But it also refers to the nutritional value of the protein that the bees bring in, and that is pollen. Pollen substitute, pollen patties, depending on what you like to use. So the second tip that I have for you is get feeding right. Know the balance. Look inside your hive. If it's just filled with sugar water honey, let them eat that down and create some space. But if you go inside of your hive, or if you lift the back of your hive and it's super light, there's nothing in there, or just a frame or two of honey, or a half a frame of honey, or whatever, you've got to really start feeding that hive. Now, if you've been following me for a while on my channel, you know that I used to keep bees with my father in New England, much colder environment, and now I keep bees down in South Carolina. 2-to-1 sugar water tends to be used for more quick storage of honey inside of your hives. Here in South Carolina, I feed 1-to-1 sugar water all year round. I never feed 2-to-1 sugar water. I don't really find this necessary, but it never really gets that cold here. And it's not uncommon that we sometimes have winters that are very mild in the 50s and 60s all throughout the winter time. So I feed 1-to-1 sugar water in my hives. But if you live in a northern climate, you're probably going to be more inclined to feed 2-to-1 sugar water. I mean, ultimately what we're talking about here is just how much work the bees need to do to evaporate that sugar water down into more thicker substance like honey. Does that make sense? In other words, if we're feeding 2-to-1, it's going to have a lot more sugar content, a lot denser content of sugar to the water inside of it, so there's less work of evaporation. And so yes, if you live in a colder climate and there's not as much time for the bees to evaporate that before they're going to start clustering, it makes sense. In the same token, if you're feeding 1-to-1 and that's all you want to do, if you're in a warmer climate, then the bees can still evaporate that down as long as it doesn't get too cold. And just a little side reminder, bees cannot process sugar water when the temperature gets below, say 55 degrees or so. There's a lot of reasons. As a matter of fact, I have a whole nother video for that on my channel. You should go and watch that if you're interested in some of the reasons why. But for the purpose of this video, let's just remind you that when the temperature gets below 55, then it's time to change over to something solid. Either a fondant, I use the Hive Alive fondant, but a lot of people make their own sugar bricks or they make their own fondant. When it gets below 55, we need to change to that. Tip number 3, when you're in a hive, move faster than normal. What are you talking about, Ray? Well, I'm talking about robbing. It is amazing to me how quickly you can set off a robbing frenzy, especially if you have hives in a row, all close together, and you open up one of them and you leave it open, or you take the top honey super off and set it aside, and then you're taking a lot of time inside the hive. Maybe you're trying to find the queen, maybe you're chasing hive beetles around or whatever. Within just a few minutes, you can set off a robbing frenzy inside of your bee yard in the fall. And it's especially bad in the fall. In the spring, it doesn't really happen all that much. I have literally lost hives because I have set off a robbing frenzy that I could not stop on a particular hive. And if that hive is already weak, it's almost impossible for it to defend itself. So when we're inspecting our hives in the fall, my third tip is move faster than normal. Really be efficient in your time, maybe even bring out an extra top cover or a blanket to lay over your hives so that there's not as much smell in the environment there for the bees. It can be contained a little bit when you have that honey super off of that hive. My fourth tip is this: address mite management. I've got a lot of videos on my channel about mite management. I would hope that you would go. In fact, I have a whole playlist of videos about mite management. And I actually have a big video coming out, a 45-minute A to Z video on all things related to mites. But for the sake of this video, let me just encourage us all as beekeepers. This is our last chance to address the mite issue inside of our hives. One mite gets in our hives in early spring. That mite goes in, has some babies, they come out, those go in, have some babies. At the end of the year, this mite population can actually snowball inside of our hives to where we have literally thousands of mites. And the mites can even, when fall comes around, outnumber the number of bees that are inside of our hives. And they are transmitting the viruses that are inside of the hives into the bees, and that can severely weaken the hive. You can have a hive full of bees in September and October, and it can look like it's flourishing, and they can be dead in January because of the mite load. It's too early right now to say, hey, my hive is doing good. And I can't encourage you enough, because I hear new beekeepers say this all the time: I didn't see any mites. You have to test with an alcohol wash. You cannot always see the mites on the bees. You can't use that as an indicator of whether or not you actually have a high mite load. Make sure this time of year you don't neglect mite treatment. It's your last chance. Another few weeks, it's going to be too late to really do anything if your bees are already infected with viruses from the mite load, and those bees are intended to make it over the winter. Tip number 5, plan your winter hive configuration. I'm not saying go in and start moving everything around and reorganizing it like it was a closet inside of your garage. The bees have been storing things in particular places for a reason. But there's at least 2 things that I really want to emphasize here for you. Number 1, if you still have a queen excluder on, now is the time to take it off. It's very possible that you can isolate your queen from the rest of your hive by leaving your queen excluder on. Especially if you're running like a deep on the bottom and then a queen excluder and the honey supers are above, the bees are going to be moving forward as the temperature decreases. The bees are going to be moving upward as the temperature decreases, and you can isolate your queen and she can actually freeze to death in the wintertime. So it's very important, remove your queen excluder. Then I also encourage you to remove any empty supers that the bees are not using. So if you still have a lot of supers inside of your hive and they have eaten through a lot of those resources, I would suggest you reduce your hive size down to what they actually need for the winter. And while there's no real danger in leaving extra space on the hive, it can make it more difficult when it comes to pests that will get inside of your hive, wax moths that will get inside of your hive, for example, and there's not enough bees to defend all of that comb. Now, is it the end of the world if you leave one extra super on over the course of the winter? No, it's not. It's not that big of a deal, but it's going to be more efficient for your bees to be able to be more contained inside of a smaller space and have less comb that they need to defend over the course of the winter. So my 5th tip is really plan your hive configuration, especially just in these 2 areas. Tip number 6, no fall splits. Now, unless you really know what you're doing, I really discourage you from making any splits this time of year. As a matter of fact, most summer splits, late summer splits, early fall splits are going to be really hard to maintain over the winter. Now, that being said, I just did one a few weeks ago and it's really thriving. But I really overpopulated that hive. I gave it a bunch of brood. I gave it a mated queen, and they're going to be okay, I think, at this point. They're really thriving and doing well. But in general, it can be a real temptation this time of year to look inside of your hive and say, wow, I've got all these bees, it's just really packed out. Maybe you've got some extra sheets of brood, got all these resources. I'm gonna go ahead and split this hive for the winter and overwinter it into 2 hives, and then I'll have 2 hives in the spring. And for the most part, you're really probably playing with fire. I'm not gonna tell you you're gonna fail, but my general advice is stay away from fall splits. Split that hive in the spring as soon as the temperatures start to warm up. Buy a mated queen, raise your own mated queen, etc. Split that hive then. You're gonna be a lot more successful. As a matter of fact, this time of year, instead of splitting, we really should be thinking more about combining, putting hives together. If you've got a failing queen, take her out, combine the 2 hives together. If you've got 2 weak colonies, it's better to combine them together into 1 strong colony for the winter and then split it back in the spring than to have 2 struggling colonies that both die over the course of the winter. So not only would I say no fall splits, I would say start thinking about the other end of the spectrum, and that is go ahead and start combining your hives instead of separating them. Which brings me to my last tip, tip number 7. All right, and my last tip, which I believe is underutilized by a lot of beekeepers, and that is equalizing your hives. Now, let me start by defining what a weak hive actually is. In general, we say going into winter, we want to have 10 frames of bees. Under 8 frames, we probably want to strengthen it. If you only have like 4 frames of bees, and by frame of bees, I mean both sides of a frame are covered with bees, then we really need to boost it up, or it's probably not going to make it going into the winter. So there's really no sense this time of year of having 1 hive that has 2 deeps, 20 frames or 16 frames, depending on what size boxes you use, that are just full of bees and brood and resources, and a hive right next door that only has 4 frames of bees, and that's it. One of the greatest things we can do as beekeepers, as simple as it sounds, is we can equalize our hives. We can take from the really strong hive and share the resources. By sharing the resources, there's 3 things in particular that we can share from the stronger hive to the weaker hive. Number 1, we can share bees. You can just take a frame of bees with nothing else on the frame, no honey, no brood, no anything. You can take a frame of bees, move it over. Now you gotta make sure you don't move the queen over. And I recommend when you put that frame of bees in, put it far away from the nest, the brood nest, as possible. So put it in the top box, for example, in the corner on the edge or whatever, to allow the bees some time to assimilate. Now, if you have older bees on that frame, yes, some of them might fly back to the original hive, but you can share bees. It's probably the least effective way of equalizing hives, but you can share bees with 1 hive to another. The better way is to actually share a frame of brood. So if your strong hive has a bunch of extra frames of brood, take a frame of brood and move it over with the bees or without. It doesn't really make a lot of difference to the weaker hive. You're literally moving thousands of bees, 5, 6, 7, 10,000 bees, depending on how many cells are filled with brood. That gives a huge boost. I mean, that's the size of a package of bees that you would buy in the spring, 10,000 bees. So just moving 1 frame or 2 frames over will really help boost the population of that weaker hive and help ensure that it's going to have a strong enough cluster. Plus, you don't have to worry about any of those nurse bees flying back to the original hive. This is the only hive they know. This will become their new home for the winter. And then the last way you can really equalize your hive is to share honey. Again, there's really no sense in having a hive that has 2 supers full of honey and the next one hive over has no stored resources. Move a super. I've moved whole supers of honey over and equalized it that way before, or just move some frames over so that you don't take too much off of the parent hive or the stronger hive. But equalizing your hives, this is the time of year to do it. It can really make a huge difference in overwintering your beehives. Hey, I'm glad you joined me today. My name is Ray, and again, if you're new to my channel, I'm really glad you stuck it out here to the end with me today. And if you have additional fall beekeeping tips, put them down in the comments. Let us hear what some of your thoughts are as you get your hives ready for winter. And I will see you next Thursday with our next video. Take care and God bless.